Welcome to True Crime Chronicles. This is the story of young famous TikToker who murdered her mum and became famous. Whether it be songs from the 2000s or the revival of Twilight, TikTok has a funny way of bringing up old relics from the past and turning them into memes. This is kind of what happened with the case of Isabella Guzman, an 18-year-old girl who was found guilty of murdering her mum all the way back in 2013. TikTok has a funny way of bringing up old relics from the past and turning them into memes. Videos of her during her trial started getting popular on TikTok when users would duet the videos and make fun of the way she acted during the trial, which was really weird. However, behind these weird videos was a real-life murder that was so brutal that it kind of shocked me to see people actually making light of it on social media. Today, we're going to discuss the situation of Isabella Guzman and how her actions led to her being arrested. Years later, TikTok became renowned. Isabella's parents got a divorce when she was a child, but they remained civil after they split up and even bought a photography studio together so that they could continue doing portrait work together. Isabella spent her childhood in Aurora, Colorado, with her mother and stepfather. Yanmi Hoy, Isabella's mother, would sometimes work 12 hours a day to make ends meet, and many people regarded her as a very hard-working lady. Despite this, Isabella was never grateful for anything her mother did or how hard she worked to support her. Those who knew the family were aware that Isabella was always kind of troubled and had a very mischievous side to her. Isabella detested school, and even though her grades weren't terrible, they were nothing to write home about. She eventually dropped out. Because Isabella's behavior towards her mother had gotten so bad, she went to live with her biological father, Robert Guzman. Isabella eventually moved back in with her mother and Ryan, but the three of them continued to have a contentious relationship in the weeks leading up to the murder. Isabella resented her mother for replacing her biological father. Ryan told police that his wife was terrified of Isabella after this fight, and matters were only made worse when the next day, Yanmi showed him an email Isabella sent her during the night, which said, "You will pay." With everything Isabella was doing and her escalating violence towards her mum, they made the decision to call the police. Ryan told the police that his wife was terrified of Isabella after this fight. When the police arrived to check on the family, they spoke with Isabella as well as her mother, and when they cautioned Isabella about the fact that she was now 18 years old. Because her mother and stepfather have the legal ability to kick her out of the house and render her homeless, she has a compelling incentive to improve the manner in which she conducts herself. Isabella didn't have much to say to the police officers, and after they left, she went up to her room and stayed there all night. You may be thinking that this girl sounds like a total nightmare to have in your house, and I agree that living with Isabella and her behavior sounds exhausting. However, according to Isabella, there was more to the story. Youngmi and Ryan were both Jehovah's Witnesses, a branch of Christianity that is very strict and doesn't celebrate any holidays including Christmas. Even then, Youngmi and Ryan were definitely Jehovah's Witnesses. No one was able to say whether or not they abused Isabella as a child. Isabella claims that the abuse got much worse after she decided she didn't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore when she was 14 years old. Isabella also claims that the abuse got much worse after she decided she didn't want to be a Jehovah's Witness any longer when she was 14 years old. Ryan opted to spend the night at home with his stepdaughter, who didn't emerge from her bedroom until sometime in the neighborhood of 8:30. That night, at 9:30 p.m., Yanmi arrived home from her job and informed her husband that she was going to the bathroom to take a shower when she went upstairs. Please remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. When Ryan went to investigate, he saw Isabella in the bathroom with her mum before she slammed the door in his face. A few minutes later, Ryan stayed in the living room watching TV and eating the McDonald's she brought home for him. Only a few minutes later, Ryan heard thumping and banging coming from the upstairs bathroom. Youngmi was calling out for him. When Ryan went to investigate, he saw Isabella in the bathroom with her mum. When Ryan tried his best to get into the bathroom, but Isabella locked the door, he immediately realized that his wife was in danger. He ran to get his cell phone and called the police. When he returned to the second floor, he saw a pool of blood leaking out from under the bathroom door. Yan Mi had stopped screaming, and he heard her final words, Jehovah, which is the name they give to their deity. The events that followed are reminiscent of a scene from a suspense or horror movie. Yan Mi was pronounced dead at the scene, but she had been stabbed a total of 79 times, all over her face and neck. There was also a baseball bat in the bathroom, and it looked like Isabella had used it to beat Yan Mi to death. Isabella calmly walked past Ryan as if he wasn't there and left the house. When Isabella opened the bathroom door, she was holding a knife and covered in blood. She calmly walked past Ryan as if, in addition to being an extremely infectious tune, the song featured some, shall we say, contentious lyrical content. Some users on TikTok took the meaning behind the song and started applying it to Isabella during her trial. Isabella behaved pretty strangely, which makes sense now that we know she was living with untreated schizophrenia. A lot of the time she would stare straight at the cameras in the courtroom and make faces where it almost looked like she was laughing. Ava Max was actually called out on the song for glamorizing mental illness by saying that it's okay to be psycho as long as you're sweet. It seemed like people were trying to overlook what Isabella did just because she was pretty, and not only that, but making fun of her behavior when she was mentally ill added to the stigma that already existed around mental illness. This really divided TikTok. Some people saw it as harmless, and they could totally appreciate Isabella's appearance while at the same time condemning her actions. However, a lot more people really didn't like this trend because it seemed like people were trying to overlook what Isabella did just because a great number of people, particularly on Twitter, were called out for making similar movies, and eventually the practice went out of style once more. It's not okay to excuse someone's actions just because they're good looking or charming on the flip side. It's also really insensitive to make fun of someone in the midst of a mental health crisis. We need to discourage making content like this when it does so much harm to people who are mentally ill. Since she was sent to a psychiatric hospital, not much has been heard from. I'm glad this trend didn't last long. Looking at the videos that some people made, it was really gross. Isabella gave her first interview since being sentenced, in which she stated that she is prepared to reintegrate into society and that she's no longer suffering from mental illness as a result of the years of therapy and medicine she has received. When asked about the day she killed her mother, Isabella said it wasn't her, and now that she feels mentally stable, she's no longer a danger to herself or others. However, this isn't the only reason Isabella wants to leave the hospital. In 2015, it was reported that she was assaulted 3 times by a hospital employee. She is now attempting to have him arrested and held accountable for abusing her. However, there hasn't been an update on whether or not the employee is being prosecuted. Please remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.